We're going to start with John Jonathan from Hahe Residents and Ratepayers Association. John, can you hear us? Are you online?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Thank you. You have 5 minutes and we'll ding you at 1 minute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to our submission. Just as an introduction, I'm the chair of the Hahe Ratepayers and Residents Association and all that goes with it. I just want to address 4 points in our submission. One is access and egress to the area. State Highway 25 intersection with Hotwater Beach Road provides the only road access to all the villages between Hotwater Beach and Ferry Landing. So it serves over 2,000 properties. Despite numerous community attempts over the decades to highlight this issue, I note there's nothing in the draft plan for this. The frequency and severity of the flooding in this area between that corner and the bridge occurs at any time there's a heavy rain that coincides with the high tide, and that obviously is happening a lot more frequently. The only alternative when it's closed off is via helicopter for medical people, if that's available, or the ferry to Whitianga. So we submit that monies must be allocated for the investigation of options and then implement a solution to provide resilience for this. I note, Mayor Len, that Brett Harries made a submission to this to, I think it was a district roading committee the other day as well. The second point I want to talk about is upgrade and expansion of the drinking water coverage. And I note that Andrew Watson may be talking about this later as well. Currently, Hahe is served by about 5 systems. One, the council operated systems, which supplies about 150 properties. Then there's the Hahe Water Supply Association, which is a voluntary group that supplies water to 171 properties. The Grange Water Association, which again is a voluntary group that supplies water to 79 properties, and this water currently complies with the current water regulations. And then there's a balance of, for example, Hahe Holiday Resort, which has their own system, and the rest, mainly at the southeastern end of the village, rely on rainwater systems. So in particular, I just want to address the Hahe Water Supply Association, which is facing a number of issues affecting its short to medium term viability. We do acknowledge, though, that council, since the last submission, has agreed to supply treated water to this system from later this year to make the operating more straightforward. However, it's still difficult to manage as a volunteer system, and we submit that TCDC should take over these water supply assets and operate the supply in conjunction with its own system, since they are going to supply water direct to it anyway. The third issue is sewage collection and water treatment, particularly to properties adjacent to Wigmore Stream. Just as a note, currently about 180 out of 550 properties in the area are served by the council-owned and operated system. The balance are via a wide range of septic tanks. The condition of both Wigmore streams and 2 Tari streams in terms of water quality need to be addressed. We note that the Harrison Grierson report of 2021 explained that the existing treatment plant has the capacity to treat sewage from the 79 properties near Wigmore Stream. And without a doubt, the unhealthy nature of that stream from time to time is partly contributed to by the septic tanks used by those properties adjacent to the stream. This was prioritised following our 2021 submission, but subsequently funding was withdrawn and redirected elsewhere. And we note that the current draft plan seeks to defer it further. We believe this is an unacceptable response to the unsafe nature of the stream. And as a start, we submit that the long-term plan should include provision for the council to commence immediate discussions with the property owners and then connect them to the reticulated sewage scheme. The last point I want to raise is the continued development of the walkable village. And I know over the last decade, there's been a lot of work done to improve the pedestrian experience in Hahei, but more needs to be done to enable the achievement of a walkable village with all the safety, amenity, environmental and health benefits that will flow from doing so. We submit as an immediate priority that the speed limit, and I know this has been discussed previously, in the village should be modified, lowered to 40 k's per hour. And in particular, the area between the fire station, which is the south end of the village, and the village hub and the beach, improved traffic management, pedestrian management needs to be put in that place. There's a lot of conflict there.
John, thank you. That is very comprehensive. Your time's up. So I will open this up for questions from councillors, but comprehensive submission. Thank you for that. Councillors, any questions of John? I have just one, John, and you mentioned Brett Harry's made a submission to the Regional Land Transport Committee. He did. Are you up to date with the submissions and the work that's being done at that Regional Land Transport level?
Yes, I am. Brett has briefed me on it. I had a discussion with him the other day, and I understand that the regional, whatever it is, the regional committee will take it further, but it needs, our belief is it still needs to be on your list as such, because it is a TCDC road, even though obviously works like that get highly subsidised by government.
Thank you, and that's the challenge. So as long as you're up to date with that work, there's a lot of effort going into that. So thank you. No further questions from councillors, so I'll thank you once again, John, for your submission and for the comprehensive details that you've given us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yvonne, please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thanks, Yvonne.
I'm Yvonne Harris. I'm chair of the Mercury Bay Community Fund Trust, and I'm here to talk to you about a rating issue the trust is having to deal with. I wish to, you would have seen our submission and have a background to it. I wish to address the main points of our submission regarding the rates relief to the Mercury Court pensioner units. The Mercury Bay Community Fund, the Trust, owns 9 pensioner units sited at number 5 and 6 Kenneth Avenue in Whitianga. So we have 2 groups of units, one of 5, one of 4, on 2 separate certificates of title. These units are occupied by only one person, and all units are under 50 square metres in size. The units are occupied by pensioners who have few assets apart from their super of approximately $500 a week. Their rental is $140 for a single unit and $125 for a bed sit. The tenants pay for their own power. The rents are reviewed every 2 years with increases of around $10 a week, which is in current with the CPI. Note the market rental in Whitianga for a 1-bedroom unit is $350 to $400. The land on which the units sit is leased from the council. The trust is a charitable trust. There is no payment to any of the trustees. All the funds are for the maintenance of the units, with assistance from funding bodies, especially pub charities, for any major repairs. Because the trust's entire income is from the rental of these 9 one-person units, the trust is seen as a trading entity in the terms of the rates remission policy, and therefore we're not eligible for rates relief. We've been down that path, made an application and been declined. We are not a commercial operation, but because we receive rent, we're trading. The trust is currently paying full rates for each property for and for each unit, even though the units are less than 500 square metres. We're currently paying $16,465 for 5 Kenneth Ave and $13,000 for 6 Kenneth Ave. It's a total of $29,000 annually, $63 a week. It amounts to 49% of the income we receive from the rent. And going by the proposed increases in the rates, our rates are going to increase to about $33,000 a year, and that's 51%. We can't afford it. We're urgently seeking rates relief to maintain the income necessary for the maintenance of the units. Now, in considering this request, the Council need to consider 2 matters which I've highlighted in our submission. Section 6 of the rates remission policy, which excludes relief if the income is derived from a property deemed to be a trading activity. Maybe that needs to be a commercial activity. Change the wording. Or Section 7, which allows for rates relief for 2 habitable units on 1 title, SUIPs, as described in the annual plan and the district plan. They say for 2 or more. In the rates remission policy, it says 2. There's an anomaly there. You've got the annual plan and the long-term plan saying 2 or more. Had it been 2 or more in the rates remission policy, we would qualify. The Council's positive ageing strategy seeks to maximise health and wellbeing for older people, but has a limited resource to implement any new actions. We believe that rates relief for the pensioner units would enable Council to fulfil some small part of this ageing strategy. We are the only truly affordable accommodation for pensioners available in Whitianga. Our occupancy is 100%, but we're catering for only 9 people. We have some 35 people on our waiting list, and that's consistent. We were up to 42 at one stage. The Trust is wanting to develop more accommodation of this type, but we can't look at any options unless we have some rates relief from the burden. Now, the rates remission policy is due for renewal in 2026. We can't wait that long. Some discussion directive with staff, please, to look at how this anomaly can be fixed. Thank you.
Oh, perfect timing. Thank you, Yvonne. Councillors, any questions? John Grant, please.
Yvonne, thank you very much for coming through and presenting. It's a great presentation, very clear. My question to you is, have you previously applied or raised this question in regard to rates relief?
Yes, we have.
And what's the background, please? 2
years ago, we made an application under Section 6 of the rates remission policy, and we were declined because staff determined that we were a trading entity for pecuniary interest. So in Section 6, if you have a look at the rates remission policy, it explicitly stops anyone getting rates relief. We don't believe, we're a charitable trust, we don't believe that we are trading as such. We're not a commercial enterprise. We're merely receiving rent. That's our only income. So in looking at being declined from that, we went deeper into the rates remission policy to see where we would fit. And that's when I found the anomaly, but in the definition of the long-term plan, the annual plan against the policy.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yvonne, thank you. That's given us a lot of food for thought.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
We'd
it.
like to see sort of in the recommendation that we can get some relief prior to the forthcoming rates being due.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bex, you're up. Welcome all the way from sunny Whitianga.
Yes, it is sunny over there today, no rain. Hello. What's that? Yeah. For those of you who don't know me, so Len's called me Bex. I'm down as Rebecca probably on the submission. That's what my mother calls me. So I'm the manager at the Mercury Bay Museum in Whitianga, based on the lovely esplanade over there. So I won't go into our submission. I've actually just come here today to thank the council for their continued support for the museum. We do get an annual grant, and it's amazing to get that annual grant. It really does keep the doors open on the museum. I just thought I'd give you a bit of a brief on our numbers. So we're getting upwards of 7,000 visitors through the museum now. So we've gone past we're kind of at pre-COVID levels, which is fantastic. The summer has been absolutely amazing for us. We are the largest museum on the peninsula in terms of visitor numbers. And out of that 7,000, we see 1,100, approximately 1,100 students from the local school and wider schools as well. People visiting from Waikato schools come and visit us as well. We have, with your funding that you give to us, we're able to then go out and do other projects, not with that funding, but that funding keeps the doors open while I'm out doing other things. So our amazing projects that we're up to at the moment, we're just looking at creating a museum on the go, which is a trailer that will travel our peninsula and show our community what fabulous things we do. We understand that there is an accessibility issue due to flooding people being able to come into us, visit us. We also are very aware that our taonga is in a building, so we are actually looking at being able to take that out into our community so people have access to it. We are really connecting with our community now. Aotearoa New Zealand history curriculum has really pushed that, not only for the schools, but for our parents and whānau in our communities that are really wanting to know more of our stories as well. Our visitors are local, regional, national and international. So we do get quite a diverse range of people coming into the museum. So yeah, I think we're doing amazing things in the museum. We've got some amazing new exhibitions. We're about to create another brand new exhibition. Our education program is award-winning. We've won 2 awards now for our education program, one here in New Zealand and one Australasian. So I think, yeah, we're doing really amazing things. And so I just wanted to come and say thank you on behalf of myself, the Mercury Bay Museum Trust Board and our community for allowing us to do the great work that we do in our community.
Thank you, Bex. Much appreciated. I have one question. Do you have a membership program?
No, we don't.
You don't? Okay.
No, we've tried. It's really not. It's just not. I don't know. That just doesn't work in our community.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Reka, did you have a question, Peter?
Thanks very much. Your submission, you're requesting core funding up to be increased to 35,000 from what?
27.
Thank you.
So we've been at 25,000. It was increased to 27 3 years ago to cover the fact that we are now paying rates. We would love an increase, but understand that even if our current funding would be fantastic, our costs are going up, especially if rates go up, everything else is kind of going up. We haven't had a real increase in our funding, but if we can continue at our current funding, that would be amazing.
Thank you. Did you have a? Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Much appreciated. All right.
Thank you. See you.
Cheers. Okay. Is Paul here? Or? Yeah. Right there. Right there. Just come in. I looked over a couple of minutes ago. He wasn't there, so you snuck in.
Lucky somebody rang. We thought we'd be delayed.
Paul, so we'll once we get you started, you'll have 5 minutes. When you've got a minute to go, you'll hear that, and then at the end of that minute, that's it. we'll open it up for questions. Thank you.
Okay.
And then for the chair, has another submission. So he's speaking on behalf of the ratepayers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is speak on behalf of the ratepayers to start with. Then I'd like Frank to come and talk on the stormwater issues.
For the
And
second
I'll
part.
go after him on that front
Okay.
as well.
So
Is
we'll
that
do
okay?
your one first for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Then what we'll do is we'll pause there, open up for questions from councillors.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to the second part with Frank.
Okay.
Thank you. Over to you.
Sounds good. Right. Thanks for having us, councillors, Mayor Len. Right. Last year I wrote to our area manager, Heather Bruce, asking for a breakdown of the CapEx money spent in Mercury Bay South over the last 15 years. There was a paltry 3 million and 0.28 million in 15 years of CapEx money. Between 2012 and 2014, all up, the TCDC spent only $8,600 in the area. No feel good for the community type stuff, all essentials, wastewater, cemeteries, footpaths. In the meantime, Hahe has had 2 tennis courts, new toilets, new playground, Hawera Beach, new toilets, showers, parking areas. We are just a holiday destination for Kiwis, the ones that pay a huge amount in rates. Our area is larger community than Hahe and Hawera Beach combined. Over the 15 years where Mercury Bay South received 3.2 million, we conservatively estimate that TCDC received in excess of 43 million from our area in rates. In the 2018 to 28 LTP, Cooks Beach had 350k allocated for a hog and path along the beach. The locals let it be known they didn't want it. TCDC staff pulled it from the budget. There was no what else would you like to improve your area, or would you like to extend your footpaths between access to the beach, hog and paths? No, they took it right off the table. I take it that these are not councillors who made these decisions. Councillors work with and for the ratepayers. They have the ratepayers' interests at heart. It must be staff who in the main don't live in the area. I'd like to see some transparency in how money is spent and allocated in areas. Mayor Len has said that was part of his election plan. We'd certainly like to see that happen. Mercury Bay South has a few things that we have highlighted in the LTP. We've got erosion issues, Flaxmore Bay and Cooks Beach. Tennis courts, which the TCDC now have in their hands, so we'd like to see those improved and other sports included. Green waste, we're still looking at. Cooks Beach toilets, which are in the LTP, which is great to see. Puringi Reserve, which is used by thousands every year. Unfinished footpaths, parking space on the Captain Cook Drive opposite the business area. Extension of the cycleway hall to the Scott Drive. The lakes condition, which I'll talk about later. Security cameras, the Long Beach Long Reach playground toilet. We don't think we're asking too much. The biggest things our community want are pretty basic and we think are achievable considering the rates we pay. We see funding for hard surfaces to combat sea level rise on the West Coast costing tens of millions of dollars, and we on the East Coast that contribute some 75% of all rates received in TCDC coffers. So, well, what about spending money on putting sand back on our beaches by means other than rock walls? There's 400k of coastline, but not all of it is under threat.
1 minute.
All right. It's funny that in the 20 plus years we have been having stormwater events that have significantly affected people's property in Cooks Beach. Council has done nothing to fix the issue. In fact, between TCDC and WRC, they have manifested the problem. TCDC and WRC has done very little to help the issues on the East Coast, but they suddenly want to spend 80+ million to do a Dutch dike for the West Coast. Like the Gold Coast in Australia, our Coromandel economy is built on tourism with our beautiful bush and beaches. Spend money to preserve those. Your role as councillors is to advocate for the ratepayer in your area, not to follow some doctrine that somebody has come up with in Thames. As a community, we are interested in what we get for our rates. It's not much, so all of those projects allocated in the LTP, mainly for Thames, are not something our members would support altogether. Get back to improving core requirements for our ratepayers, not social services or aquatic centres.
Thank you. That's your time. We'll open it up for questions. Councillors, anything?
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. All right.
No question?
No questions at this stage. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, stay there, Paul. Are you going to present with Frank?
Well,
You're welcome to. It's up to you.
Yeah, well.
All right.
This is most interesting because I can't see my own presentation. Yeah. I will, yeah. I saw that coming, so I put it on my phone. But, so,
Just bring that mic
Yep.
to and make sure
it's
in front
mobile.
of you,
Very
Frank,
good, very good. We're in business.
that everyone can hear.
Good afternoon, Mayor, councillors, community board members, members of the executive. My name is Frank Gagan. I'm a permanent resident at Cook's Beach, and I've been involved with some of your people around the table already in a working group to look at the flooding at Cook's Beach. I just wanted to take this opportunity to perhaps increase awareness, which is click. Do I go any particular way? Which one? Yeah.
Can we minimise that?
The referee should stop the
GG.
clock.
Thanks.
Extra time request. Yeah. Are we good? Can we go to the next slide?
We'll look after you, Frank. Don't worry.
Now, Mayor, you might have seen some of these slides before, but I just wanted to make the council aware of what happened. And the purpose of my submission was to emphasise what we've got in the long-term plan to deal with this particular issue. As you may be aware, the council has a working group, which I'm involved with. And there was an anticipated spend of 1.7 million that was going to be put in the long-term plan. The next slide, just to get through it. My observation when I looked at the long-term plan, go to the next slide, was that the funding, my primary thrust of my submission is the timing of those works. It was, if you look at the long-term plan, the spend was pushed out to 2027 and beyond, and I'm sure we can do better than that. And I seek that the Cook's Beach, the stormwater improvement funding allocation be brought forward. Now, I do understand that the current version of the plan may have that expenditure brought forward, but when I was putting this plan in, it seemed to have a 3 or 4 year delay before we did anything. Yet we're working on the subject right now. There's expected to be works refined by next year, this year at the most, with studies that are going on. So work should be able to start a lot sooner than out at 2027, 28, and really the real work's spread out over obviously a 5-year period. I'm not entirely sure why that is. So that is the thrust of my submission. Can I just go to the next slide? Just for a bit of background. Putting Cyclone Gabriel in context for Cook's Beach, it wasn't actually that big an event. It was, however, basically a 1 in 5 year or 1 in 8 year event, but it was on top of a lot of about 6 issues in the whole area. It had quite a lot of rain in the January, February. So that chart on the right is the previous events, including hail, and then we had Gabriel. And that chart on the left is actually what happened on the 13th and 14th of February rainfall. But when you look at that in meteorological data, that's only basically a 1 in 5 year event. Let's go to the next slide. So it's not as if that was an unusual event. It did have its own characteristics. If you look at the history, flooding in the Cook's Beach has a long history, and the events that occurred right there, these are the last top 10 events that have been recorded in Cook's Beach, and the area in green, that's pretty well consistent with what happened in Gabriel. We've had several of these, and they added to this the expected impact of climate change. It's reasonable to expect another similar or more intense rainfall event within the next few years. So as we know, rainfall patterns around the world are increasing in intensity. There's been numerous reports on the subject, but I won't dwell into those because time's running out. But if we'd like to move forward, you will have access to this presentation, so I won't talk to everything that's in it because I'm going to run out of time, so we can just bump the slides forward. Well, yeah, primarily, I don't think I need to tell you that basically what the impact on the community is: loss of profit, loss of property, additional cleanup costs, increased insurance costs, loss of appeal to move to the community. In fact, people wanting to move away because they can see the threat of climate change, the values on the properties are impacted, resale appeal is lowered, and then for all those involved, there was the added worry, stress and impact of their houses being flooded and white stickered for weeks. So let alone the health risk when the stormwater was overflowed and into the sewage system, and the sewage system overflowed, and we had manholes in the street bubbling out. So move to the next slide before I run out of time. I'll just skip over quite a few actually. Now we'll move forward. This is just the history of why Cook's Beach floods. This is day after Gabriel in the reserve. Keep going, just keep flipping through. This is a $150,000 insurance claim for that house. This is primarily around this area here, the low-lying area where we don't have stormwater system. The green stuff, the green pipe work is where we do have a stormwater system. Even so, it still floods through here when that system overloads, which we get next slide. That's just an example of the stormwater system over flooding on Cook's Drive. Next slide. More flooding. And the lake had been up to there at that particular point in time. So the lakes did what they were supposed to do. They came up to here, they didn't flood these houses, but the older areas that are not controlled by the lakes have issues. So that's the morning after. So the lake water comes up, the tide goes down, the water goes out. The lakes worked for certain aspects, but not everywhere. Next slide. That's just the background as to what the flood modelling has been done. There's been 11 studies done on the hydraulics of Cook's Beach over the last few years. The most recent study in 2008. There's a huge amount of work being done, but not a lot of things being done to fix it. It's all been associated with a lot in the new subdivisions around Longreach.
Frank, we're out of time.
Yes, that's
but
yep.
But I'm aware that there's a lot of good work going on. So councillors may have some questions of you specifically around the stormwater, and councillors have also had some workshop presentations around this. So I'll open it up for questions if councillors have
one closing sentence, which is the nub of the whole issue. We are working on it, but it's a lack. I think I'm looking for a sense of urgency. I mean, the headline would be this needs to be an issue that's done in the near term, not in the long term. And for me, there's a lack of a sense of urgency to get this addressed. That's my closing summary.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Councillors, any questions? Peter?
I don't think we have a copy of that in our submission, and I'm just wondering if we might be able to have a copy of that presentation, please.
Yeah, we can share that with you, further share, as well as it will be appended to the hearing notes.
Any questions?
Just one.
Sorry, John Morrissey.
Question. Are you aware that at a recent council meeting, probably in the last 2 months, that an out-of-cycle budget was given for, I think it was in the vicinity of $2 million to address the stormwater issues in the area you specified, and the Whitianga councillor opposite me, Rika, may actually like to comment if that was in that area. That was that $2 million out of cycle budget. My question is, are you aware we've recently spent some money there?
I'm aware that some money had been put aside, but then when I saw the plan, it was like 5 years in advance before it was going to be spent. That's the thrust of my submission is, why is it 5 years before anything's spent? when studies are going on right now and engineering works would like to come up with a solution within a year. I mean, we've been a year already.
That
So
would
yes,
not be the case if it was an out-of-cycle budget
Mm.
allocation. That would not be the case. So.
Yeah.
So just so the councillors know that this is the same, sorry, we had a council meeting yesterday and we had someone at Public Forum that was asking questions about the same piece of work, and this is all related, and Frank sits on the steering group as well as myself, Paul from the Ratepayers, Brett Houston, and a couple of other really fantastic engineers. I forget their names right now. But there is, I know it's in the printed LTP is 1.7. I believe there's 1.9 is what Brett shared with us at our last steering group meeting. But your sense of urgency in bringing that work forward as soon as we've got the information and getting that work done, yes, I absolutely agree and endorse and support what you're saying. No point waiting. Once we know, we should be able to press on.
That's the essence of my, that's what I'm seeking, is we get on with this sooner rather than later.
Thank you,
So
Frank.
my last question to you is, does that make you happier?
Well, outcomes are important. I mean, talking about it is fine. We want outcomes, and we haven't seen any outcomes in 12 months. So we know we know we're working on it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Appreciate it. Tracy. Oh, Paul.
Yeah,
Paul is his second one. Thank you.
Sorry, it's me again. Yes, all right. Okay, Frank did a great job of explaining what we're up against. I just want to give you all a bit of maybe history on it. Cook's Beach and Mercury Bay South growth over the past 30 years plus has been a result of its stunning beauty and beaches, excellent place for families' holidays. Around 2000, the Hardy Martin Estate was expanded to incorporate 2 lakes to offset the surface area stormwater that had been previously drained into a wetland. Consequently, these 2 lakes that we're having a bit of trouble with. This wetland drained to the Cooks Creek outlet and the Puringi estuary. The lakes A and B have never been fully successful in alleviating Cooks Beach stormwater problems. In essence, the majority of the stormwater coming into Cooks Beach arrives through creeks to the eastern end of the beach, but 95% of that water then travels to the sea via the Cooks Creek to the western end of the beach. Over the years, these lakes have been a pain for the local residents, especially in summer through no flow, lake grasses, algae, felt smells, etc. The council has never taken the responsibility of looking after the lakes like they were entrusted to do, apart from spraying dicot every year to kill lake grass and mow the surrounds. Through vigorous campaigning by locals to find solutions, they are finally looking at those solutions. Where are we? Cooks Beach has had more money spent on hydraulic flows, area maps, stormwater studies than any similar sized settlement in New Zealand, I'd have to say. WRC and TCDC have been big contributors to developers having to supply these reports. The frustrating part is they allow the developments, they put in the parameters and specifications for stormwater control and release on the developers for subdivisions. Global warming and sea level rise is always taken into consideration. In the 22 years, in my 22 years in Cooks Beach, no money has been spent on remedying the problem of weather event stormwater by TCDC or WRC. In fact, they have probably made it worse with the Longreach subdivision wetland and the extensive planting they have done in the wetland, allowing very little water to now exit the Puringi estuary. We have hugely talented people in our community that are largely ignored by staff. Ratepayers are an encumbrance and that they don't really want to deal with. So far on Lake B and A, we have had a report on plants. This is recently. We have a report on plants in the lake and riparian planting. We have divers looking at the lakes. We have hydrocare services looking at sucking out the lakes. We now have NIWA doing a report on the lake. All this is huge expense to the ratepayer. I class myself as a reasonably practical person. But what council staff is doing defies logic. For heaven's sake, just clean the lakes out and put something like silver tarpon to keep it clean. That's what a lot of councils are doing around the country. But no, we need staff members to make rational decisions and stand up instead of getting a report done by an expert, so nobody can take any blame for anything if it goes wrong. We have now got 140k for riparian planting in the LTP for lakes A and B. For what? They will do next to zero to fix these lakes. In summer, there is no flow and it's hot. We need something to eat the lakeweed that's growing and the algae. Riparian planting won't do that. The margins just aren't in it. Yeah, we need something to, I've still got a minute, and I've run out of state. Yeah, we need something done, and nothing has been done. And so we just need people to make a decision on getting something done, something that is meaningful, that helps the situation. Yeah, for not just the flooding, for the cleanliness of the lakes. Thank you all. Any questions?
Thanks, Paul. All right, appreciate your time.
Okay, thanks, Len. Thanks, councillors. Thanks for your time.
Kia ora.
Tracy, just give us 2 seconds to to shuffle things around. Yeah. Okay, Tracy Hampton from Waikato Screen. Presenting with Erin. Are you there, Erin?
Yep. Yes, I am.
I'm sorry, Erin on the left, Tracy on our right. Gotcha. Okay. You ready to go? Over
yes.
to you.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou. We're here today to advocate for the inclusion of Waikato Screen New Zealand in your council's long-term plan. The presence of Waikato Screen is crucial for our region as we specialise in providing the necessary resources, information and connections to attract and support film and commercial productions. The screen sector serves as a catalyst for economic growth, cultural enrichment and community engagement. In a global market ripe with opportunities, we cannot afford to miss out on being part of a thriving industry. As we neighbour Auckland studios, which are at capacity, your district is strategically placed with the locations to complement these international productions. Without Waikato Screen, you will reduce the substantial direct income for your communities. Waikato Screen has laid out our groundwork for success. We've established a robust industry crew directory of over 100 professionals. This week, our showreel will be released, attracting the attention of international producers. This isn't about potential, it's about proven results. We've conducted successful filmmaking workshops, forged meaningful collaborations with national and local organisations, and we're on the verge of launching our website, which is a vital tool for attracting future productions and showcasing our region's offerings. We've demonstrated our ability to deliver tangible economic returns. Large productions filming in our region, including your district, have experienced increased economic benefits directly due to our efforts. We're not discussing hypotheticals, we're presenting real measurable impact. Auckland invests $1 million annually into its film office, while Tauranga allocates $100,000 to the screen sector, with $70,000 specifically directed to its film office annually. Waikato Screen, in comparison, is a strategic investment. We have requested a total of $95,000 annually over the past 3 years, divided among our 9 territorial authorities as their contribution. Thames is our only council that has not contributed, and we, as a sector, have delivered over $2 million to your district in the last year alone. Now we have proven our worth. We do not want you to miss out on our ongoing investment, which is producing a high return. Thanks for your time and consideration. I'll hand over to Erin for some stats on this. And we do have a slideshow that we're hoping that you will have visibility of. Erin.
Over to me. Hey, have you got that slideshow? I just don't know where can you see a slideshow by any chance?
Are you sharing your screen?
No, we sent it through to you. It was requested to be sent through to you.
Let's have a look. Give us a second.
I could share my screen.
Give us a second. We've found it. And we're just going to share it now.
Thank you. Can we just ask them not to come in, please?
Okay, coming up.
Righty-ho, if you can, I'll just say hit it when there's a new slide. So yeah, if you can just go to the next one, please. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just recap on our previous presentation. Oh, that just shot ahead. Oops, no, it's going the wrong way. There goes. So just to recap, the economic value of the screen sector is worth 3.5 billion and 1.5 billion goes into Auckland alone. We're one of 14 regional film offices in our country, and essentially we are an economic development agency, not for entertainment. A lot of people have said that to us, like politicians have said, they feel that it's entertainment. It's not, it's economic. Waikato Screen is also a not-for-profit. There's been rumours that have gone around that we are after-profit, we are not-for-profit. Also, through Waikato Screen's collaboration with Screen Auckland, the New Zealand Film Commission and International Film Scouts, the Waikato is becoming a hot commodity for locations. Money from many productions is coming from out of our region and often from out of our country. So this is new money that's injected into our region. We had 39 inquiries last year, and I'll briefly touch on the top 5. If you go to the next slide. Okay, we supported Coromandel production last year, which had an estimated spend of $150,000 per day for 14 days. It equated to over $2 million. Community involvement was high, and there was reports from staff in the New Zealand Herald saying it was an Apple series with Jason Momoa being filmed in Whangamata. After numerous weather events, local hospitality industry welcomed the 400 people involved with the production. Kiwis were offered $300 a day to be warriors. Extras described it as an awesome experience, and the Whangamata tennis club facilities was used as a dressing room, and apparently a lot of ladies played tennis that week. Local people were employed, locations were paid, and there was much needed economic relief to Thames Coromandel district, and the road and weather events didn't keep the filming away. Apart from this production, we've worked and assisted on numerous advertising with advertising companies in your area. And if you could just hit the next slide. We had Beyond Goodbye, which is a Japanese Netflix production that came to Raglan, and they put in $425,000 into Raglan and Hamilton communities. It's a medium-sized production, and they employed over 100 locals, and it was once again a welcome relief after COVID and bad weather. I'll just smack it through to the next slide.
Guys, we are out of time, but what I would like to ask you, if I may, is we've got a great presentation. What is the ask and what is the proposal in front of our LTP for council to action? Can you just narrow it right down to that, please?
Right. What we were saying is we have delivered millions. We're wanting 15,500. The reason we've asked for this is we understand it's really challenging economic climate at the moment, and we acknowledge that it's hard times, but our request, as I said, $1 million from Auckland, we're asking for 15,500 so that it is achievable for your council to be able to contribute that much. We really need all councils to participate, to have this collaborative and uniform approach to be a film-friendly area and for the ease of international customers. We just really need that support. We don't think it's a big ask. It's really quite small.
Thank you. So that's 15,500 per annum in the LTP? Yeah. All right. Thank you. That helps to clarify that. I'll open it up to councillors for questions. Delhi, please.
Thank you for that awesome presentation. Do you have any relationship at all with Destination Hauraki Coromandel? Do they liaise with you at all?
Yeah, we if we're looking for locations, we'll contact them if it's a curly one, and if they also if we need help with access, etc. And sometimes they'll know the iwi of the area as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Tracy and Erin. That helps us a lot just to narrow it down to what council needs to look at as a specific action. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sally.
Hello. Thank you. My name's Sally Christine. Most of you know me for something quite different. You have options in the long-term plan. I've sort of done several. That's not what I'm here to talk about. Person a lot more intelligent than me, Alvin Toffler, that said that he wrote, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn and relearn." So I'm here to support you in your decision making and to reflect on my time in local government governance and in health governance and what perhaps I have need to unlearn and relearn. One of those things is, I've been using my dictionary a lot, affordability. What does that mean? And for all of us, even in this room, that would be vastly different. I work in the social services. I'm the coordinator of the Hauraki Family Violence Intervention Network, and for some people $2 is unaffordable. And so when we talk about affordability, who are we actually talking about? And I acknowledge how challenging that is for you, because you people have to make that decision. The other thing that I think we've done, and to the disservice of future generations, is that we haven't fully understood the cruciality of depreciation and actually funding depreciation and not using that fund somehow to make the reality of doing a cost to do our business more palatable to the residents and ratepayers. So that to me is something that if I was here, I would be really trying to be honest. I'm not saying you're dishonest. What I'm saying is that trying to be really honest about the cost of business and how much it does cost. The other thing I've really been struggling with is the definition of community. We use community all the time, but it means so many different things. So please concentrate on who you are representing and how diverse and complicated that is. It was only last week, and it encouraged me to make a late submission. Thank you for acknowledging me late. Is that, and the gentleman before said exactly the opposite to me. I got told in the main street by someone quite senior in our community that that side gets it all, we get nothing, and you're hearing exactly the other thing. So this whole east-west thing is really complicated. I tried to look up last night the Local Government Act and what we say when we commit to being councillors, and by memory, not so don't. I couldn't find it, is that we commit to look after everybody, not just the people that elected us. I haven't put a submission in on the review of the electoral system because when I read it, I've been in local government since 1989. The only change that I can remember since then was in 1989, I was elected as Thames Coast representative on the Thames Community Board, and we had Coast, Southern and Central. That's now gone. So I didn't submit because it was more of the same, and I think that we need to really look at how we represent us as one. The road fracture, congratulations, you did fabulously, demonstrated the interdependence of this whole area. We cannot do without it. The young gentleman from Rotorua Boys High School went semi-viral. They stood as brothers to fight for us. They could see the purpose greater than themselves and put aside their petty, arbitrary differences. It makes me wonder what could be accomplished if we could do the same. So make good decisions. Try and think about everybody and be proud of what you do. Do it well, and we somehow have to fund it. In my household, I still think we get good value for our rates. My biggest risk for me is, as I go into retirement, is insurance and all of those things as well added up. You can't solve that by yourselves. Do your job well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Don't go away. Questions for Sally? Anybody? Councillor Morrissey.
Yeah, thanks, Sally. That was great to listen to. You touched briefly on representation and how you weren't going to make a submission on it, but you obviously had thoughts on it, and it did come up in your submission. Any thoughts on representation, community boards or such that you might like to share?
I think that if you want my honest opinion.
You're always honest.
I think community boards are another layer of council that do not actually meet the needs of the community or you people to meet your commitments to community empowerment and community involvement. I think you are committed to that, but I think that there are, in this day and age, different ways of linking with the diversity of your communities in ways that are more useful, potentially more cost effective. So that I would be quite radical about representation, and in my experience, we always got it so late to, you've got 3 months to decide your options, and it was never a greenfields opportunity. So to me, if you were really going to look at representation, you would start now for the election. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Gottlieb, did you have a question?
Yes, first of all, hello, Sally. It's nice to hear your voice again. I have to say, what you raised about being elected and being elected for the district, when I first got elected, that's what I thought my job was, and I struggled about being made to go on a community board. I said I'm not a local. I'm representing the whole district. But as time went on, I found that harder to deal with because there are so many different vested interests, and you raise a point that we have to consider very carefully different roles and where we all fit in. But it does give cause for concern on the fracture that sometimes exists. Yeah, thank you for raising that.
Thank you, Councillor Gottlieb. Any other questions? Sally, thank you once again.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Good luck.
And don't be a stranger. You know where we live.
Sorry, I think can I just ask a question? Sally, is there a parting word you wanted to give us?
This is the second time that I've been in this room since I retired. The only other time has been when you, as a council, unanimously voted to have Maori seats, a representation. This room was full of very different people than who are here today. It gave me goosebumps and was truly one of the most important things that I've seen in this chamber, and I've sat in it many a day. You will be challenged hugely on that, both from a national level and from your electorate. And I wish you well in that fight. And I was very proud of you that day. And I will be standing very straight behind you as you support that unanimous decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you. Okay. Where is my run sheet? Sandra Scott. Sandra, are you online with us?
She's not showing, but can we just put it out there again? Because we're not sure if she's come on somebody else's device.
Okay. We're not hearing you yet, Sandra, so if you're there, can you unmute and open up your camera so we can connect with you? No, Sandra?
The team will be onto it, so we might go to next.
Okay, so we can come back to Sandra if we need to. Dennis Tegg's moved to tomorrow?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can go to Peter and Simon. Apollo Projects Online.
Kia ora.
Is that Simon? Welcome.
Kia ora. Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, councillors, for letting us present today.
So do we have Peter as well?
No, I don't think Peter is going to join us, sorry.
Okay. All right,
Mate.
so over to you.
Sorry to disappoint. Thank you anyway. So yeah, kia ora, ko Simon Wall, toku ingoa. I work for a company called Apollo Projects, who are a specialist design and build construction company that has extensive experience delivering community, sports, recreation and aquatic facilities to local authorities throughout New Zealand. We've reviewed the Thames Coromandel District Council's draft LTP and the associated consultation documents and made a written submission on this basis. That's also included some comments around the current couple of projects that are being proposed, which is a new or renovation or a new council offices and also a swimming pool in Thames. The main intent of our submission is really to share our knowledge and experience of delivering similar projects to local authorities and really challenge Thames Coromandel District Council to truly think about the way in which they're going to deliver those projects and ensure that they can generate genuine value for their community. We've observed many projects led by local authorities over recent years that have either had very high initial budgets, sometimes which have made them unaffordable, or meant that they've been pushed back further in their in the planning phases and delayed, which means that the communities don't get to utilise the benefits of them and also receive the wellness and mental benefits that that come with high quality community infrastructure. We strongly encourage you to really consider the value of the projects, the initial budgets, and also consider how you're going to procure them to ensure that the project costs as they proceed don't get expanded and become essentially unaffordable for the council to deliver in the end. We also note that in our experience, there's often been conservative utilisation predictions on a lot of these projects, and that when they've finally been completed, they've become completely overrun with the community wanting to use them, and often their anticipated numbers have meant that the court space or the size of the facility have been lower than or smaller than what they really need. So I'll leave it at that now. I think that's about the 5 minutes up. So thank you, Your Worship and councillors, for the opportunity to speak today, and happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you. I have a question from Delhi.
Hi, thank you for your documents as well as your oral presentation. Are you familiar with any projects, or have you been involved in any projects that have been built on land not owned by a council but by an investor, where the council has leased, and possibly other organisations or other interests have leased that building back? And what are your thoughts on that?
There's certainly plenty of examples where that happens. One not quite of the exact same scenario, but we built in Te Kuiti, the Gallagher Event Centre, which is built on Ministry of Education land and paid for by the council. But currently, the best example of this is the Tauranga City Council's partnership with an organisation to develop buildings for them and lease back. It's a very common model in a commercial sense, and it's a very good way of mitigating the amount of capital that an organisation needs to obtain a new premises.
Thank you for that. That answers my question very well.
No problem.
Thanks, Lynn. Simon, Peter Revel here. I gather from your submission that you were aghast at the figures that were in there for a couple of the projects, the swimming pool and the council building.
Civic offices, yep.
Have you built on the Coromandel Peninsula?
No, we haven't built on the Coromandel Peninsula, but we have certainly built in every other far-flung corner of New Zealand, from South Taranaki, Gisborne to the Chatham Islands and Bluff, and so we are pretty familiar with the challenges of building in smaller regions of New Zealand.
Right. And just as you were preparing your submission, did you take into consideration the unique aspects in Thames, particularly of what's happening with regards sea level rise and potential sea level rise and land movement, et cetera, et cetera?
Not specifically in terms of that. I guess our assessment was at a much higher level of what we consider the costs of similar sorts of projects, and however, we've certainly been involved in projects where those sorts of challenges have existed as well.
Thanks, Simon.
Another question from Delhi, please.
Second question.
Sure.
As part of your brief, hypothetically, if a council said, yes, we'd like you to project manage the construction of a building, is part of your brief marrying a council or organisation with potential investors, or is that something that the organisation would have to go and seek for themselves?
Absolutely, that's certainly things that we do. We often have, in the commercial sense, again, we often have particularly food processing or sort of other primary industry organisations looking for a place to have a factory built for them, and they'll come to us and discuss what they need, and then we would go and match them up either with someone who owns land already or investment organisations that will take that on.
Thank you, Simon. Okay, appreciate your time and your presentation. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much, Your Worship and councillors.
Rekha, would you mind standing in for me for a second, please? So next we'll go to Kevin. Kevin's here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Sorry, there we go. Just get back to some organisation here. Welcome. And I understand you each have a presentation, or you presenting together?
Presenting together, and then Ian will present his personal submission.
Okay, perfect. So just so you know, I'm sure you know, you've got 5 minutes. We'll give you a 1-minute warning and then take questions at the end. Thank you.
Kia ora, councillors, and my name is Kevin Crawford, and I'm Secretary of Kuatunu Ratepayers Association, and with me is Ian Priest, who's the new Deputy Chair of Kuatunu Ratepayers Association, and we're speaking on behalf of the 209 members of the Kuatunu Ratepayers, and We've actively contributed to the consultation process over the years as committees, and the new committee chair, Steve Hart, and ourselves as officers intend to continue that. In the lead up to this LTP, in particular KRA input to the community plan 2020 to 2030, when we were asked to do a refresh, July 23, and we also held a community survey mid-2023. That informed us to give our submissions on our behalf of our community. We input into the drop-in session in October 23, and all of those documents are attached to our submission. And we created a list of 8 items, and despite all of the former inputs to the consultation process, not one item is identifiable in this LTP to our community needs. We're of the view that the LTP process needs to have community wishes at the forefront of its processes after Council's statutory obligations and capacity to deliver. This was addressed at the Alliance meeting 21st March. The LTP has a vision of a vibrant and safe community, but the community plans are not even referenced. This council needs to reset its performance framework in that community plan and include reference to the community and the community's wishes in our view. In particular, we do not agree with the LTP's framework and under transport activities. The outcome as a result, as you're describing, the result of tough calls, you've chosen not to plan or fund nice to have footpaths and walking and cycling facilities. Not to plan over the next 10 years. This in no way aligns with a vibrant and safe community. Our community in our survey identified several key items, one of which is safe footpaths for walking and cycling alongside State Highway 25, from Waitaia Road to the village and onto Bluff Road. We have placed in our request that Kingfisher Way to Quarry Point, the boat ramp, and onto Bluff Road be given priority. Once upon a time, 2018, 2028 LTP, it was there. It disappeared, never been restored. We're suggesting that the conveniences that for 280 grand, which is the only item north of Whitianga that affects us, which we never asked for, be recategorised, redirected from a depreciation fund to actually put into completing the footpath involved. We'd also like to have a staged footpath from Waitaia to the village. Our other request is the Kuatunu-Matarangi connectivity, the restoration around where the rockfall is. Effectively, when you say you're maintaining the footpaths that you have, we want to restore what we had, past tense. It's important for resilience and essential for safe walking and cycling. The infrastructure is there, bar for one gap. So we would like to see a CapEx inside the long-term plan that A, represented either the business plan or B, a staged construction, but in particular of a solution at the rockfall, either a suspension bridge or an alternative, which we want to have a full consultation process with, and we'd appreciate that. It's important that effectively council, in our view, changes its position of why not to a stance of how can, effectively using various leverages, co-funding, in the case of the Kuatunu-Matarangi connection, which we've offered and not had response to, consultation, and leveraging all the linkages that you have. You've been successful in the recovery with leveraging linkages through the Resilience Strategic Response Fund. Want to see further of that. And you have the communities applauding you in aiming to do that. But unfortunately, I see in the risks of your own community, and you recognise that those government funds are completely at risk and called high. In fact, lack of funding potentially.
Thanks. Thank you, Kevin. Are there any questions? There are none. Thank you. And we'll now go to Ian for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Right-hand side. Perfect.
Perfect. Kevin. Well, thank you for your time, Council. Let me talk today. So first of all, quick introduction. This is me speaking as an individual. I am a member of the Residents Ratepayers, and the thing I want to talk to does connect with some of the themes that Kevin just talked about. I did send in a submission, covered a lot of ground. I'm not intending to cover all of it in this conversation. But one thing I do want to acknowledge, first of all, which I did say in my submission, is, I guess, a recognition to the council and agencies working with the council, how hard it must have been in the last few years with lockdowns and with the storms and other things. Can't have been an easy time to be effectively constant on an emergency footing. And as a personal point, also seeing some of the what you could say polemic that's erupted through social media can't be easy to deal with anyway. So thank you for that. That being said, things do need to move on. So the one issue I do want to talk about was in my submission. So I'm going to set a bit of context. I'm going to set a bit of precedent within New Zealand, and I've got a proposal and an ask that I'd like to cover. So the thing that I actually want to talk about is speed cameras. And that is something I did talk about, I think, a year or so ago at a KRA Kuatini Residents AGM. So effectively, there's two drivers behind wanting to put a speed camera in. One is around tackling the issue of road safety, which Kevin spoke to, which is a fundamental issue for our community. For many years, we've been campaigning on this. Somebody will get hit and somebody will die eventually. It is going to happen. If there is a probability, give it enough time, it will come about. So there's one aspect about road safety, which is certainly an issue for our community and will be an issue for many other communities, certainly ones that sit on the state highway. Also revenue generation, that's clearly a theme, always a theme, but it's a very significant theme today, that it would actually cover both of those. And I relate back to my experience in the UK when speed cameras were introduced. So the technology I'm talking about is speed monitoring, number plate recognition, linked back to a central database, and then the allocation enforcement of fines. That's the bit I'm talking about. Initially, it started with people weren't happy. It's changed. It then ran into a period of revenue generation, and then ultimately into a period of reduction in number of people speeding. And so the culture has now been established there that you can't speed without being caught effectively, and it has brought down speed limits. And the knowledge I got also of speed awareness through some research that I did is when you start going above speeds like 50 kilometres an hour, an impact with an individual, the chance of serious injury or death goes up exponentially. So there's a reason behind that speed limit. I would acknowledge that the reduction in speed limits last year by Waka Kotahi has been effective anecdotally from things I've seen, but that's about the speed limit, not about the enforcement. And that's the bit I wanted to talk about. In terms of speed cameras, there is a precedent in New Zealand around the use of them. Certainly when I read about 2 weeks ago, there are 3 toll roads in New Zealand, 1 in Auckland, 2 in Tauranga, that both use number plate recognition, linked to a database, linked to fines, linked to enforcement. So my point simply is, if we can use this technology to save money, protect revenue, why can't we use it to protect lives, or actually do both? It's a win-win, and it tackles 2 of the key issues I think that are facing our community and therefore the council. I would also say that the new transport minister has also been signalling the adoption of tolls and speed cameras as well. So this isn't groundbreaking, it's piloting an early adoption. So my proposal is that we trial a speed camera of this type within Kuatini. We've got one already that does speed monitoring, but we effectively upgrade that to be a tool where we can monitor, track and enforce fines for the reasons I've just outlined. As part of the KRA, I will take that on as a personal project, working with the relevant agencies to see if we can get that done. So this is a trial, so we'd have to do some baseline measures, put a methodology in place, do some measurement and bring a case to take it forward. I'm fully imagining that you'd have a very strong business case to support that. Given that funds are always going to be short, something that does have a decent payback is obviously going to be welcome. As a final thought, I'm obviously aware that Waka Qatar here, probably one of the principal agents in this situation, but these situations are always complex. There are always many stakeholders, and so the input, support, endorsement of one of our significant stakeholders who may have less to practically do, but that support is going to be fundamental. So my ask of this council is they support the idea, endorse it. I will take it on working with the KRA, and I guess my fundamental question is, if you won't support it, why not? That was a question I asked a year ago. I still haven't got an answer to it. Why do we not have speed cameras for police to enforce it? Thank you.
Thank you. Great timing. Are there any questions? Delhi.
So, hi Ian, thank you for your presentation. What is the legality around collecting number plate? And like, you'd have to have the police on board if you were going to do that?
Potentially,
My
I guess
question.
what I'm working off is the fact that it already happens. So if you look at the 3 toll roads that are existing. So to answer your question directly, I haven't done kind of detailed due diligence and research. This at the moment for me is a concept and a principle that underlies it. So part of the next stage would be to establish that. But the fact that it's already happening, I would find it hard to believe that the law was openly being broken in those 3 instances. So an assumption I would make is that there is a legal precedent that would be allowed.
Thank you. John Grant.
Hi, Ian, John Grant. Congratulations on your role as well.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Is it State Highway 25 or Blackjack Road or both that you're talking about?
State Highway 25. So we've got 1 speed camera. So the proposal would be to upgrade that one. A better answer, which I wouldn't put on the table now because keeping it simple, is to do average speed between the entrance and exit of the community. Those camera systems have been really effective in the UK. But I think to keep it simple and improve the technology, we take the one that's there, which is kind of between the reserve and Kafiro Drive entrance, and then just upgrade that one and test the case with that.
Any other questions? No, thank you.
Great, thanks for your time.
Thanks for your time. And next I would like to invite Joe from the Tyrrell Residents and Ratepayers Association. I believe Joe is going to be online. And Joe is on page 850 of your submission pack. No, Joe? Joe, could you maybe perhaps unmute yourself and put your camera on?
Hopefully that's worked, has it? Can you see me, hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't. Oh, there you are. Hello.
Hi.
Just so that you know, you have 5 minutes to address the council, and we will take some questions at the end. You will hear a ding when you've got 1 minute left, and then 1 when your time is up.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm going to read some of this just to make sure I cover it all. My name is Jo Finnis and I represent the Tyrrell Residents and Ratepayers Association. I assume I can take my written submission as read, so I won't cover everything. But I am submitting verbally today because I feel obliged to express the disappointment and frustration felt in our community about the long-term plan. Tyrrell essentially has been left off the list. And so I just want to point out a few key issues that are probably most important to us. Firstly, I'd like to commend those involved in the consultation with our community last year before this draft plan came out. We met with people in the library and were asked for our list of, wishes and wants and needs. And that was really reassuring and quite positive, I felt. And it did create a sense of hope that we'd be listened to and understood. However, what's happened with not achieving any place on the list is that there's a growing apathy in our community about this consultation process. I guess I have to put my Pollyanna hat on though and soldier on, and I'm just going to reiterate a few key points. Firstly, of course, we want to request that you reconsider the decision not to fund the Tyrrell Heritage Hub. There has been considerable investment, both financially and socially, in this project. And it's very disappointing to a number of groups that this hasn't been included. I know you've got a few submissions about that, and there are good reasons why. I'm sure you've read it all. We do ask that you include the Tairo Heritage Hub in this long-term plan. Regarding the Tairo Township refresh, which was also on our list, you're probably possibly aware that Tairo won the prize for being the most adversely affected town during the road closures. And we feel like the poor cousins at times with a dated, somewhat dirty little town with dysfunctional one-lane bridges. So the exclusion of the town beautification was really disappointing, especially over looking forward 10 years. We did have discussions with people who said, you know, it's going to be 6 to 8 years in the planning, but get it on the list now. And that's what we felt we were trying to do. It's not on the list at all, of course. So I'd like you to reconsider that as well. We do feel that the proposal to carry on with the Whirianga upgrade is a little bit unfair if we have not even had our upgrade yet. There are other towns that have on the Coromandel, of course, and we do feel like it's our turn. Regarding the Thames swimming pool, I have not found any support for putting district funding into the Thames swimming pool. From an Eastern Seaboard point of view, we probably don't think of Thames as the hub in the way that other people do. And certainly we've got a swimming pool closer to us in Whangamata, so we're just not supportive of particularly district funding for the pool. We do feel that it should be locally funded, and whatever the community feels is the right option should be used. In general, our position is that TCDC should adhere to the core responsibilities of management and maintenance of current assets, along with the work on the roading and the stormwater infrastructure, which is obviously supremely important. We've got frustration levels in our community about wasteful consultation, the repetitive nature of unanswered questions at community board meetings, seeming lack of action on requests for service, seeming lack of due diligence in some staff proposals for things like toilet blocks. We just feel that the model for local government is failing and it's not sustainable. And last year I encouraged the tapping into community volunteers as a resource, because we're asking for things to be done, and we get the no answer, but we're not allowed to do it ourselves because of health and safety and all sorts of other things. So we do ask that you find a way to tap into what we can provide. And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jo. Don't go away. I just want to ask the councillors if there are any questions. There are none. Thank you. Thank you for dialing in and speaking to us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes. Next, like to invite Francis Nicole from the Life Education Trust. Sorry, you're in the room.
Right. Thank you for having me here. Apologies from our chairperson, Keith Trembath, who has some health issues at the moment. So his wife insisted he stay home, so I am here instead of him. He's a big talker, so I'll try and live up to that. My role on the trust is actually as the applying for grants to keep our whole system going. The ongoing operational costs, of which our educators' salary is one of the biggest ones. But a big thank you to the TCDC for the 3 years funding that we've already had. We've already had a multi-year one from you. And we'd like to propose that you support the continuation of our funding. Talking with Dean Allen from the council here, he said that we've already been included in the first 3 years of it. There's a proposal that we stay at the same level that we have for the last 3 years, and then after that, look at it again. New policies are coming in apparently, which is wonderful. Thank you for doing that. Keith and I came and had a meeting with 3 of your councillors early March, and they looked at what we had for the last 3 years and what changes needed to be made. Basically, what we've got is fairly standard for what we do is not going to change much over the next 3 years, 10 years. I mean, modified, but we are there for the children. The 2 outcomes that they gave us, I assume that you guys have seen this draft of it, so you know what I'm talking about. But those 2 outcomes will stay the same. And as I look through your council's long-term plan vision, vibrant, safe communities, that was a big tick. Connected and resilient district, a big tick from us, and collaborative district, a big tick from LifeEd as well. We play a part in all of that, from looking at the rangatahi, the tamariki, and the extended whānau in those school communities. Your area's a pretty widespread area, and usually our educator likes to go up in the first term, but Cyclone Gabriel made a big change to that the last time they went up, but has been successful this last term. We have a new educator this term, so she's learning the ropes. And she's done all of the schools that she was able to do up here. They're all very keen to have us back, and even just after COVID, we were one of the few outside providers that the schools actually did want, that they were happy to have in there with them. The changes that Lorna and Dean and Mike, I think it was, that we discussed and looked at, that they put in as changes are fine by us. That there would be some tweaking, looking at one of them here that I'll talk to, but maintaining a succession plan, a governance team to oversee the delivery. Yep, that's always a big one with getting new people in there. Some of ours are getting a bit elderly, still want to do it, but we need the new blood in there, so we are working at that. I'm doing a lot of shoulder tapping and looking at that. We've tried Facebook as well, so we're trying to get out there and do a few new things. The mobile teaching classroom, that's one where I think Lorna was talking about planning to increase the capacity to a second mobile classroom with support from external funders. Now this one, yep, it sounds a good idea. Our last meeting, which was just a week and a half ago, we find that our current mobile classroom is getting to the end of its life. So I think possibly that one will have to possibly be changed a little bit, because we need to maintain or possibly get a new rig that can keep us on the road, that may not pass one of its tests, so we're not sure about that. So that's one of the big ones. The other one was attending a community board meeting at each of the district, the 5 wards, and yeah, we thought it's a great idea. I think even better would be somebody from each of those boards come into the classroom. That's how you'll find out what it's actually about. We could come to a meeting, but if you want to find out what it's all about, go into that magical classroom and just see how it works. See how the kids respond. Harold the giraffe's always there. Kids that are 25, 30 still remember Harold. So yeah, that's there for us. So in summary, thank you so much for what you've done. We're very happy working with you and look forward to another good 3 years or so or more.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Martin.
Yes, thank you for your submission and presentation today. So you say that you're happy just to receive the current level of funding that was for the last 3 years, for the next 3 years. But realistically, from your point of view, what's cost of living and fuel prices and things done for your operating expenses? Is actually that, I'm not offering to give you more, but is that
you're very generous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that actually sufficient to cover it, or are you just?
Well, you always want more money, okay?
Yeah.
But with actually with Keith. Pity he's not here because he has drummed all of the councils, that we cover 4 councils, and got them all on board with multi-funding, which some of them were not happy to do for a long time. But we've actually got three of those councils have 3-year multi-funding at a good level. One of them would be nice to see, but not being TCDC. But if we can keep those levels of funding going, we know it's there, it's continuous. We do have some very good long-term funders that we get 10 grand a year. They just say, yep, fine, go for it. Yes, the prices of everything are going up. Our educator lives at Whitianga, so she does have a house at Tokoroa, but there's a huge area.
Yeah.
But we have to put her up in a motel if it's more than an hour and a half of travel. It's just not fair. So yeah, all those prices are going up, but I don't want to be greedy because I think what you're doing for us is actually wonderful.
So it's the certainty is more useful to you at this point.
It is in planning, okay. Yeah, and for my job as a funder, if you can guarantee, yep, we've got this here, that can spread that far with that, and so on, you know, it's guaranteed. That's big. Okay. It is big. Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks for your continuing funding, hopefully.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, I have 3 children at home that know the giraffe very well.
Yeah. Nice. Harold, yeah.
Harold, not Gerald. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not when I might be too old. Anyway, we digress. Thank you very much.
Okay, cheers. Thanks, guys.
And the next person I would like to invite is Marguerite Muellers, please. Sorry, I need to look both ways.
Kia ora, katoa. Marguerite Muellers. I've spoken many times about the submission for the Super Gold card to be used on the Whitianga ferry. And 2 years ago, it was Sandra Gaudi. She fell asleep, hopefully not asleep, it's too late now. And so there was very little consequence because we went through all the motions that in actual fact 8 years ago, someone of the Whitianga ratepayers said, well, it was a mistake of people who didn't even know where Whitianga was on the map when they established that the Whitianga ferry is actually a commercial enterprise. It's a kind of tourist business. Since COVID, we know there were no tourists. We very much think it's a very essential service for the community. Plus, when we look at the positive aging strategy, it's access to transport for the elderly, which is actually not happening because of the due reasons I obviously briefed you on many, many years. I've had experience in my role of the older people's input, people who had no longer been able to drive, stuck on either side of the river due to limited income. With increased costs in the housing, they were unable to cope financially, so were forced to limit the engagement with services and community. This in turn having a detrimental effect. So we got letters from GPs who worked in this area for 20 years and that people are no longer coming to their appointments. They are stuck on the other side of the river. Some people from Whitianga can't go to ferry landing to their loved ones because the graves are on the other side. So it's a quite tricky little situation where the ferry takes 5 minutes backwards and forwards and people have to pay $9 now. So we have fully exhausted the whole in and out that council obviously can't come and help for payments. So we come back to the allocated area of responsibility, conflict of interest, who's doing what. And the new council 2 years ago made a slight improvement because some of the Mercury Bay Community Board had actually put it to TCDC, yes, there is a problem, we should do something about it. So the access to transport in your positive aging strategy needs to be addressed again. And so I was then thinking, why would a person who buys a ferry for more than $500,000, Jeremy Loma, want to actually have it for tender, up for tender? It's a big risk. So He won't move, we know that. So what I wanted to suggest is that the new Merkur Bay Community Board, as Sally said, living and linking with the community without close intimacy issues, psychologically speaking, has more community access and says, well, what can we use from the previous people or people who already worked so hard to get that solved? Is there any little leeway that we can have another talk to Jeremy Roma, or obviously we cannot change the entire setting, but we can do better. And for me, it's always to stay positive. Behind me, there are 1,000 people with the signature. Someone offended me slightly and said, you doesn't even have the signatures. Yes, I have. And so the ratepayers of the Whitjanga had addressed it with land sold at the time. The Scott Simpson, everyone congratulated me to do this rah-rah, and also the Whitjanga of beside in component with Grey Power wanted us to go forward, and I haven't quite given up, thank you. So there is a sentence, now Teroro, Nako Terora, Kaora I Te'iwi. With your food basket and my food basket, the people will thrive. This talks to the community to collaborate in a strengths-based approach. So I wish we can find someone here who's excited. Someone said, oh, Marguerite, you're very excited. I want you to be excited. Thank you very much. So, so we moved a little bit, thank you, today. And also Heather was asking me to come again because obviously I have already spoken 2 years ago about the same issue. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yeah, don't disappear. We'll just see if there are any questions. Martin, Peter, and then Martin, sorry.
Marguerite, what implications does it have for council to support Gold Card? There's a cost to council?
Sorry, no, I'm not counseling you. Sorry, you get it wrong. Sorry, I don't quite get your question. Sorry.
I'm happy to brief you on this outside of the meeting rather than take everybody's time at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. I think we found the enthusiastic person you've been looking for.
So I don't quite understand the question.
I just suggested that I will talk to him and give him the detail of the answer to that question after the session rather than
I wasn't addressed. I thought I'm addressed, so I don't get that.
Yeah.
I think Martin has a question.
Just briefly, if Waikato Regional Council is now responsible, then they should actually deal with it and get in contact with me. That didn't happen. But if you are there and say, okay, maybe the payment we get from the birth from Jeremy, we could actually have a little sort of pocket where we give really the people in need a little money, not to get stuck on either side, and actually lean on health and mental health. I thought that was the most important thing for me.
Before you duck away, did you input into the WRC long-term plan?
But someone was supposed to come back to me and they couldn't find it. And then I went to the office in Whitjanga and they didn't have it. And then Heather sent it to me. Heather Bruce, thank you very much. But she was then on holiday. So I obviously, yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Were there any other questions before Marguerite? No. All right. Thank you, Marguerite. Next, I would like to invite Andrew? Yeah, Andrew Watson, who's online from the Hahei Water Supply Association, and that's on page 302 of the submission pack. Andrew, if you are there, can you just make sure you're not on mute?
Yeah, I've unmuted myself and I'm turning my camera on. Can you see me now?
I can. Fantastic.
Okay.
And you heard earlier you have 5 minutes and we will give you a, yep.
Yep. I won't take 5 minutes, I hope. Hi, I'm Andrew Watson. I'm the chair of the Hahei Water Supply Association. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today. I had a call at 4 o'clock yesterday from Brett Houston, who told us that the council meeting yesterday approved the agreement that we're going to enter into with TCDC over the supply of bulk water to our supply, and also an easement to put some of our assets on council reserve. And that's such good news for us, so thank you for that. Yes?
Sorry, no, just saying goodbye to someone leaving.
Okay.
We look like I'm waving it, sorry.
So that's fantastic, and we're really pleased about that. The next step is we're having a special general meeting on the 11th of May, and that will give us sign off as an incorporated society for signing the agreement. So that's all good. So the supply of bulk water to us from council will do three things. It will allow us to lift our boil water notice and supply safe water to our members. It will allow us to comply with the drinking water standards and rules, and it will make it easier to operate our scheme, which is a real blessing. But owning and operating a water supply is the job of a council, not a bunch of volunteers. So we're keen to use this as a transition period, and we're keen that the LTP reflects the need for looking at options for water supply for Hahei. This was started in 2020 with a feasibility report covering water and wastewater, but it was never really finished and it was never really properly consulted on. So, what we've advocated in our submission is for an holistic approach to be taken to that feasibility study, and that we're hopeful that TCDC will ultimately take over our reticulation network and upgrade it to meet TCDC's own standards, and also provide firefighting water, because Hahei as a community is gazetted as an urban fire district. So in order to comply with that, it needs to have a firefighting water supply. So just to wrap up quickly, as I said in my submission, we'd like the final LTP to include provision for the taking over of the Hahei water supply and for the undertaking of a holistic study of water supply options with costs for Hahei for consultation with the community. And that's all I have to say. Have you got any questions?
I'm sure there will be questions for you, Andrew. John.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks very much for your submission. And I've been aware of the Hahei water issue for 20 years now, I suppose. Hey, listen, listening to you, Andrew, do you just see this obtaining piped water, bulk water from TCDC as the first part of what you envisage as being the ultimate takeover of all your infrastructure by Thames Coromandel District Council?
That's what we would like, yes.
And have you shared that with staff?
Yes.
Okay. And just going back in history, I think that the 170 odd residents, they were part of a development in the 1960s that a developer took on board as part of his consent, supplying water to those properties. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, as an incorporated society, we've been going for over 5 decades now.
Right. So,
in sport and recreation management, and then a master's in business, global management, marketing.
Just wait a minute. We'll just get rid of the
If
button.
we could just remind everybody else to mute them. Thank you.
So, in the future, when you approach TCDC to take on what are basically a pretty dilapidated system, I think, isn't it, Andrew? It's pretty run down, needs a big
No. We've replaced most of our network with modern polyethylene pipes. So it's not, most of the system is not in its original condition.
Okay, well, yeah, okay, that's okay. Well, let's move on from that. When that actually happens, would you and the other residents that are going to be connected to that system accept a targeted rate for the cost of any upgrades to that system, because it could be quite expensive?
Yes, well, that's why we're recommending that the study is done to look at options and costs, and then that needs to go to our members, and they need to say to weigh up the costs of staying as an incorporated society and versus becoming part of council's water supply system.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, John, just another point. We have a real struggle getting people to serve on our committee. It may be when those people are faced with those costs that more people may come out of the woodwork and be prepared to serve. But at the moment, that's not happening, and that's why we want to be part of council's water supply.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Andrew, and I understand all the work you do and what's involved. It's just a matter of being fair to all ratepayers who may have already for a system.
Yeah, we understand that.
Right. Any other questions? Peter.
Yeah, Andrew, Peter Riddle here. Andrew, I get your predicament, the situation. I understand that. I think I'm inferring that you would see it as the council's job to undertake and do the feasibility and costing and understanding everything that would be involved in taking over the water supply.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yep.
Would there not be a case for that task to sit with the Hāhi Water Supply Association, if to progress that at the pace that they would like to progress it at, to put in front of council a feasibility study and a cost as a sales proposition?
Peter, if it was only us that was going to be taken over, then we would willingly contribute to such a study. But what I think there needs to be is a study of the whole of Hāhi water supply systems, and there's a lot of people that don't have a water supply that rely on rainwater tanks. There is the camping ground, there is the Grange Road water supply. So it's a complicated setup, and that's what in my submission I refer to the 2020 study that was a good start, but it was never really finished, and that's the sort of study that I think we need to have. And then the situation with our 170 members that would need to be woven into that study and treated as a a big part of that study. But I don't think that's would be fair for us to contribute to the wider study.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think there are any more questions for you, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. I hope the rest of your day goes well.
All right,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Madam Chair, I do have a question for Ari though, because we're about to hit 6 hours. And I know that we've only got one submission left, but
can you do it in 3 minutes?
Yeah, to give Warwick his fair due, I'm really happy to move that we extend.
I would like to move an extension.
I just did that.
Oh, right. Okay. Moved by Robin, supported by John Grant. Supported by John Grant. John Grant, please. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Holy, look at the power. We can't get a hold of you, so at this stage we're just yourself. Yep, Warwick. No, please. We have an extension of time. I think. What's that?
I admire your stickability today. I now feel like a bit like Parsons Peabody about to deliver a sermon.
Well, please sit down so you're closer to your microphone.
Deputy Chair and fellow councillors, thank you for the opportunity to address you. I'm sitting here as the chair of the
Tairua Community Board, and at the moment I'm not sure as to whether I'm the whipping boy or the wailing wall boy, but I'm generally supportive of all the submitters from our area. I will add, however, that there is a feeling of discontent prevailing in both of our communities. To date, I know that many of the submissions have been about the provision of community facilities. And as you have heard, this is of major concern in Tairua. Geographically, we in Tairua see ourselves, our town, as the gateway to the northeastern seaboard. As such, the proposed extension to the existing library footprint to provide space for the co-location of a heritage, information and community services is an essential to the well-being of our community and all the visitors who travel through town. That's all I have to say. Short and sweet. I'd love some questions.
I'm sure we can go. Peter, Rebel has one for you.
Thanks for the work, and it was really good to hear from the people who submitted and the passion there. I noted that 2 of the oral submissions were advocating for the pontoon not to go ahead, and I was wondering if the community board had a view on that.
I was of the opinion that this initially was going to be privately funded by members of the Sport Fishing Club. That's how it was first presented to me as I was there one evening socialising. And I don't know how it progressed from that, but I intend to go visit again, probably when I get home tonight. Follow it up. Yeah, it's, they think it's necessary. Boats at the moment, as I'm no longer a boatie, was for 30 odd years. The rock drawing that's there is a hazard for boats launching and retrieving. So that's the need for this pontoon. And it's not down towards the harbour entrance, it's against the, as I say, the hard rock wall. But I'll follow it up.
Thank you. I actually have a question for you, and that's with regards to the Heritage Centre. Is it the express wish to extend in the library location, or are they happy to look at another location?
We have looked at all of those options. At one stage, we were looking at taking a piece of what was left of the campground. And there was going to be 2 buildings, one for the Heritage, one for the Information Centre. That imploded. The Information Centre got a lease for the meeting room in the library for 3 years. They are quite happy with it and they don't want to move out. So, yeah, there's a lot of involved in this. We've had many discussions. So we see. You heard Oriel earlier on this morning talk about it. We see the co-location of what I've said, the Information Centre, Community Services, the Heritage, all in this co-located extension to the library. That's what we're hoping for.
Thank you.
Can you just clarify how much space they're actually looking for in that location and for that total picture that you just described?
Look, I can't put my finger on. I didn't
But
bring that particular. There is a square footage they were going for, a square metre.
I thought there was 120 square metres in
total. That's right, yeah. And at that stage, the plans that were drawn up and paid for were for at the back of the library. Initially, we wanted to go out the side towards the campground and go right down that side. Now that it's on hold, I guess we'll be going back to the drawing board. I don't know where we go.
I'm unsure if this is overstepping my current role, but I'd be quite keen to get a briefing or a bit of a background on this project. I don't know if other councillors feel the same, but it would be useful to have some of the background in a report from staff.
I will make every effort to fire you all these pages and pages including the plans, everything. I'll get it to you, everyone. Believe me, when I get tomorrow morning, I will get right onto it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Well, thank you for, I should just check if Sandra has, no, I haven't got my glasses. I can't see that far.
No, she hasn't.
Okay, all right. So do I close this? Thank you. All right. Till tomorrow? Okay. So just adjourn this meeting until tomorrow?
Through the chair, minus one thing, I just need to go back to the apologies because Terry was actually travelling. So can we get a mover and seconder for the apologies?
I'll move.
Thank you.
That hand went up real quick. Yeah, so you've got Martin and John? Yes?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favour? Opposed? None? Carried. All right, adjourned until tomorrow morning.